June 6th, 2015, here on UCY.TV radio. We are live on a Saturday night. This is the Ochelli effect, as the obnoxiously aggressive bumper tells you. I'm your host, Chuck Ochelli, and want to thank you for tuning in, whether you decided to check us out further on down the stream via YouTube, via downloading one of those wonderful MP3s that you can find at ucy.tv/TOE, or if you decided to use your applicable application via your fondle slab of choice, I thank you all for deciding to spend a little bit of time with me tonight. So, a little bit of microphone noise there, my friend, but just to let you know, tonight I have somebody who's a little bit different, somebody who I'm not exactly familiar with, but I do like the style by which he is presenting himself and have had the opportunity to check out at least his YouTube channel. And we're going to learn a little bit about who this gentleman is tonight together. And his name is Paul Wesley, and I'm pronouncing it Wesley, but I'm not sure if it's Wesley, you never know. I can't ever pronounce anybody's name properly. That's part of the wonderful thing about me being me, I guess. Anyway, so, oh, and by the way, if you do want to catch the archives later, or if you want to, catch the replay because you join us later, whatever else, do remember that all that stuff and the YouTube playlist for the network is available at ucy.tv/TOE, and some select shows are also available on YouTube via the Blind JFK channel, because, of course, I used to be called the Blind JFK Researcher and still am in some circles. Tonight will not be a JFK show, though, so don't start hitting me with those Skype messages about you're doing JFK again. No. Anyway, so Mr. Wesley is called the Prince Truth Chaser. That's how you can find him on YouTube, and interesting guy. I don't know a lot about him again, but he was a big suggestion from Rob Clark, who has been a guest on this show and is also the, my boy Rob Clark, because he likes to refer to himself as your boy Rob Clark, so I will therefore refer to him as my boy Rob Clark, who does the Lone Gunman podcast, and you've heard him on here in a solo interview, plus on some of the roundtables over the JFK event. But he was the one who actually pointed me to Paul, and then somebody else chimed in privately and told me that I would definitely have an interesting conversation with him. And isn't that what my show is about, after all? So, Paul, how are you doing tonight?
Doing really good, and thanks for having me on.
Well, appreciate you taking the time, brother. And I did, at first, when I went to your YouTube channel, note that you were very much involving yourself in the National March Against Monsanto. That's like the thing that greets people when they go to check out Prince Truth Chaser on YouTube. And hell yeah, that's one thing that we need to get our hands around as a population. That's one thing that we need to deal with. Of course, it would be nice to have food that's actually food and not poisonous and all that other good stuff. And of course, that leads us right to Monsanto, and the wonderful corporations and its subsidiaries and conglomerate chemical, master corporatocracy agents that lay all this crap into our food supply, water supply, air supply. Well, But anyway, enough from me, sir. How about if you explain to people why it is you call yourself Prince Truth Chaser, or how it is you got that name, and talk about a couple of the things on your YouTube channel, and we'll just let it evolve from there.
Absolutely. And again, thanks for having me on. And before I even open my mouth, I just want to say, for all the listeners, for everyone who's going to do the archives, whatever is discussed in this show tonight, take it with a grain of salt, okay? And whatever resonates and hits the spot with you guys, you know what I mean? Empower, whatever you get out of this, empower yourself to empower others and really get the message out. Now, that being said, as far as the whole Prince Truth Chaser thing, I mean, when I was younger, my mom used to call me her little prince. And, Truth Chaser is something I came up with because,
Paul,
I really woke up to this madness that's going on.
Paul, 1 second, Paul.
Sure.
You're like varying a lot with the microphone and stuff. First, do me a favor, try and get a little closer to it. And secondly, maybe do you have the Skype in front of you so that you can see the box?
Well, I'm using Skype for my phone, so that's probably why you're hearing it the way you are. And if I can call into my phone, that would probably sound better.
All right, you know what? The number to do that is 718. Let me know when you got a way to keep track of the number. 718. Normally, I don't like to do this live on the air, but this is what happens. I didn't sound check with you first. I probably
should have sound checked it. Right. Just give me 1 second.
My fault. Yeah. You know what I'll do? I'll type the number to you really quick, and then you'll see what it is. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Do that. Type it to me real fast, and I'll call in.
Yeah. Sorry about that, man. But I thought we were okay there, but it's not coming through, and I don't want people to miss what you have to say. Because,
well, I appreciate it. Let me see if I
and I really did. And by the way, I do like his channel. Seriously, if you go over there, that's like the little advertisement, because now YouTube has this thing where you can give a new viewer to your channel a short sort of commercial. And of course, this is him basically talking to the camera during the March Against Monsanto and having that sort of discussion, which anybody who's a regular listener of mine understands that I've got no love for Monsanto. Sorry, I keep doing that. But it's one of those things. And, of course, I'm not all as much intimidated by or impressed by the damage that something like a fictional character like Satan does. But I am quite moved by the extensive amount of punishment that is given to the human race via this large corporation. So, and we've been over this, of course, glyphosate and all of those wonderful things. The fact that GMO food is...
Real fast. What's the number again?
718-717-8296.
All right, I'm going to let you go. 8296. I'm going to let you go, and I'm going to give you guys a ring.
Excellent. So, of course, thank you. So, of course, this is one of the things that definitely attracted me to him right off the bat, besides the fact that Rob Clark suggested him, which, big ups to my boy, Rob Clark. Again, the Lone Gunman podcast. If you're interested in the JFK issue, that's what he does, and he's on Spreaker and all that kind of good stuff. And, of course, he's also cooperative with the whole Neopolis Media Group, which myself and Carmine Sabastano are working on, which will not exclusively focus on the JFK assassination, but there will be a considerable amount of stuff done regarding that political assassination, as well as the historical truth of the MLK and RFK assassinations, putting them in their proper context and all that kind of stuff. But Neopolis Media will not be relegated only to the historical events. There will be current politics, current realities that will be examined, explored, and otherwise journalized through that particular website and cooperative work. Now, let's see what happens. How do you sound now?
All right, are you there? How's it sound?
All right, you sound a lot better. Just let's see if this holds up. Live radio, this is the way it goes. So, my apologies to everybody. I really should have sound checked first, but this is my fault, not Paul's. So there you go. Anyway, back to it. Like I said, I'm greeted on your YouTube channel by your discussion of the March Against Monsanto, which is absolutely one of those valid, necessary things that needs to be done, and seems to be getting enough attention and getting enough people thinking that, perhaps we will have the possibility at some point of being able to do some real damage to what that particular large corporation is doing to us all. But that's not the only thing you concern yourself with now, is it? Paul? Okay, perhaps he can't hear me now. All right. Let's see. Let's see if you can see that. Because I'm not hearing you respond. You might have a player open or something there, and that's fully behind. Hello. Okay. Okay, and also for anybody trying to send me any private chats, forget it, because the computer's not working right, and I'm not going through the effort of going into that, so not doing it. In fact, I might just wind up having to close out the chat room because of the problem with the browser. But, Paul, are you hearing me yet? Because I'm not getting anything from you.
Can you hear me yourself?
No, you're not coming through at all, sir. Wow.
Yeah, that's odd. I can hear you on the phone line, but on Skype apparently you're having technical difficulties.
Well, now I'm hearing you some, but you sound like scrambled electronically. I don't know if you have a weak internet connection or if you're like just in a bad spot for reception. I'm not sure what's going on there.
Yeah.
Oh, well, now you sound okay. Say something else.
All right, how's this sound when I talk right now? How does this sound?
A lot better. I can hear you now. You're waving
All right,
a little bit.
let's get this show on the road.
Okay, excellent. So like I was saying,
let's get a...
you don't just concern yourself with Monsanto on your YouTube channel, which again, is Prince Truth Chaser, and so not only concerned with Monsanto but other issues. And go ahead and speak to that and how you got the name Truth Chaser.
Sure. So Truth Chaser was something I came up with, all right, because I've always came to the conclusion, the idea that we're always looking for the truth, whether it be conspiracy or anything else. And when we think we found the truth, we really realize that we've, still have, the rabbit hole is so deep that we're really, at the starting point again. So you're always chasing the truth. So as an independent journalist, I just came up with the name, Truth Chaser. So, I mean, I like it, and a lot of people like it, and I kind of took it from there. As far as Monsanto is concerned, they're literally, again, killing us off slowly by poisoning our food. So I've covered a lot of events against Monsanto. I've covered all the mainstream media outlets and literally exposed them in Philadelphia. The chemtrail issue, I've done that.
I hate to say this, Paul, but you're garbled again really bad. Oh, man.
This is ridiculous, man.
See, now, whatever you just did there, you were clear.
Does it sound better now or what?
Well, now I can hear you. Before you were so garbled, it was like I barely understood chemtrails and something
It's
else.
Weird. It's weird. Can you hear me good now?
I can hear you okay, but you're wavering. So I don't know if it's, like I say, it's a reception issue or if you're moving around or I can't tell. Yeah. This is weird.
It's probably a reception issue.
Yeah, probably. Okay. Well, let's give it a shot again. As you were saying, you don't seek truth via conspiracy, but also via other issues, and that's kind of where we got really garbled. So go ahead.
Well, absolutely. I mean, we have to understand that the mainstream media are the main reason that a lot of truth isn't getting out. And one of the main reasons that, 90% of the population are asleep right now to what's going on. How do I sound? Do I sound okay? Do I sound okay? Can you hear me?
Do you have another phone that you could possibly try and call in on?
This is, I don't know. This is weird. I've never had this happen, so I don't know.
Neither have I. Hundreds of shows, and I never had it this bad. Exactly, where we have a connection.
All right, how about this? How's this sound?
Holy crap, that's way better.
There we go. All right, let's start the whole thing. We could edit the beginning, obviously.
Well,
you guys ready to rock and roll?
Now we are. It's live, so we got all that in there, and I've never cut up the shows. So everybody, my apologies on this. I didn't know what the deal was, but now we got.
That was really weird. Let's talk about a conspiracy. How about not having Paul Wesley on the Ochelli show? How about that? Anything they can do. Listen, anything they can do to silence us, they will do, whether it be technical wise or otherwise.
Now you sound so good I can actually hear the phone vibrate, so it's all right. There we go.
All right. Well, so to really quick to jumpstart this, Prince Truth Chaser, like I said, my mom used to call me her little prince, and I was always knee deep in curiosity on what was going on in the world, and I came up with the name Truth Chaser because once you think you find the truth, you realize you're back at step one. You realize that the rabbit hole is so sickening and so deep that you're always chasing the truth. Again, whether it be Monsanto, chemtrails, the media, JFK, they're all connected. They're all parasites. So that's where the whole truth chaser came from. Because, once you're awakened to the truth and you acknowledge what's going on mentally, you're always wanting to find out more. You're always wanting to dig more. And when you think when you think you found the truth, you find yourself back at square one because it's so deep. And one of the things I said earlier was about the mainstream media. I've literally, held asses accountable in the city of Philadelphia, exposing the mainstream media for the fact that they're withholding real news. They're not talking about Fukushima. They're not talking about what's in our food. They're not talking about what's really going on in the world. And they're the main reason that 99.9% of this population are asleep. So, I've done that. I've dabbled in being on radio shows about the paranormal, different things. But my passion for activism and my love for humanity, for everybody, it just really drives me to really get out there and empower myself to be an independent journalism and really hold asses on the line and accountable for the tyranny that's going on in this country. They're trying to they're poisoning our food, our air, our water, vaccinating our kids, trying to take our guns, ripping apart our Constitution. And I think that, like I said, whatever you guys get from this show, knowledge isn't power. Real power comes from taking whatever you gain from what I say or the show says and empowering other people. And that's one of the things that I love about being on radio shows, because you guys empower others and I get a chance to speak my mind.
Well, that's a great thing. On a psychological level, what you can become is a force multiplier. Whether you're utilizing a platform like YouTube or you're doing a radio show or you're running a blog or whatever it is, you can become a force multiplier to actually challenge and, in many ways, deconstruct and literally dismantle that which is the greater weapons of mass distraction, which we see now proliferating the only a handful of corporate entities that are left to control the infotainment industry. We're inundated at this point with the Bruce/Caitlyn Jenner story. This is the big deal. This is who is getting the Twitter followers. This is who has captured the imagination of the American people. And I love the one meme that got passed around, and I don't often like to pass around lots of recycled memes from other people, but this one I thought was appropriate, and that was a picture of first the Bruce Jenner 1970s, circa 70s male version, Wheaties box appearance, Bruce Jenner, to the Caitlyn Jenner on Vanity Fair, and it says the problem with the American people is that they are more concerned with this transition than, and then you scroll down or you look down, and then you see regular police officers and more militarized police officers placed next to each other in photographs, and it says, so this transition is more important to the American people than this transition.
Absolutely. And and that's the thing. I mean, they're passing executive orders while they're doing this. You know what I mean? While we're busy watching, shows like Honey Boo Boo, or while we're busy being distracted by this tabloid garbage that really means nothing. They're passing executive orders. Obama just passed a law stating that police are under protection now when it comes to protesters protesting. It's ridiculous. Our police, I've passed around a picture on Facebook that, if you look at the way police were armed in the 60s and you look at the way, police are armed now, they're like literally owned military. It's ridiculous. Sickening ridiculous.
Right. It's become a domestic standing army as opposed to peace officers, which is what they used to be. And again, this transition is not the greater concern for the majority of the American public. Well, maybe if you introduce race into it, which is yet again one of these great distractions, because after all, if we can pigeonhole it into that issue, then that speaks to people's personal prejudices as opposed to any sort of endemic system-wide problem which has infected the entire industry of the peace officer brigade, which is supposed to be there to protect the public, not to intimidate, not to generate revenue, et cetera, not to cause things like what happened to Freddie Gray, not to cause things like what happened to our friend in California, whose name nobody even remembers at this point, right? Kelly Thomas. There you go. Not to remember that guy at all. Not to remember the young kid who was shot for holding a toy gun. Not to remember any of these other people who've been beaten to death and tased, and the other guy dropping a taser on a body he already dropped with 8 shots and everything else. No. Don't pay attention to that, because Caitlyn Jenner needs to be heard from. And the Honey Boo Boo channel over there, what is that? What does TLC stand for? Traumatized little children? No, maybe. Well, it was the Learning Channel, and it really is a learning experience to watch 19 and counting, and now have to debate over whether incestuous relationships among people who are insane enough to have so many children in their home is really relevant to the public discourse, et cetera, and is Honey Boo Boo being molested, and did Mama Boo Boo let her back in the house? And this is what you should be concerned with, right? I mean, people like you and me, we're just nitpicking. We're not talking about the real important issues. I mean, is Hitler actually being discriminated against? I mean, is that a reality? I'm sorry. You know what?
I love a show that I can come on and laugh. This is great.
Well, I gotta make jokes because
it's so insane if we don't.
It's gotten to a point where what in the world are they spraying? What are they selling us? What are they smoking? Because I want some. If that's what looks important, really, I do.
Good shit, apparently.
Yeah, brother, exactly.
They're smoking that ganja that's got 90% of the population in La La Land. But then again, I don't want none of that. You know what I'm saying? Because we're awake. What I want to do is I want to find out what they're smoking and give them 90% of the population. So that way guys like us can get out there and say, hey, get off that shit, man. It's time to wake up and smoke what we're smoking, because we're smoking truth, and we're smoking these parasites that are not bringing truth. You know what I'm saying? So
exactly.
When we get to the whole Freddie Gray, listen, they want a civil war in the United States. Let's be real about it. I know white people who've been shot down, the same way black people. They don't get any media coverage. Of course not. Of course they don't. Okay. And they're not going to, because they're trying to have civil unrest in the country, because any excuse they can have to disarm the American citizens, any excuse they can have to abolish the Second Amendment, they're going to use. And martial law would be great for them, because once you disarm a nation, then you can enslave a nation, and that gets into false flags and everything else. And because we're just one false flag away, or one stroke of the pen martial law away from them trying to disarm us, it's going to be real hectic.
Right.
But
and incrementally, in addition to the challenge to the Second Amendment, and this is the point that I always make, and people yell at me that I'm not so concerned about the guns and I should be more concerned about the guns. I'm concerned about all 10 of those particular things that they have in that thing that we used to call the Bill of Rights, okay?
we used to call it.
Yeah, according to, remember, W told us it's nothing but a damn piece of paper. So remember that. And if Obama, who is the, constitutional scholar, treats it in this way, I mean, it must be a marginalized.
Well, hey! Now, if anyone pays attention to Obama, he's also a scammer / scholar on Hitler and World War II, Nazi Germany. He studied how Nazi Germany enslaved their nation, and mind controlled. The key word, mind controlled the nation. So. That the puppet we call Obama. And when we also go to Bush Sr., one thing he says about the one world government, and I mean, to you listeners who don't know what that is, he said that, the law of the jungle is gone, and the law of order will be brought in, and we will have our one world government. And that gets into Agenda 21, and with these, we're dealing with psychopaths. We're not dealing with our forefathers are rolling over in their graves right now, because what we're doing right now is parasitical, and I do a lot of presentations, a lot of lectures, a lot of talks on what they're doing is they're dehumanizing us. Now, this is the reason why 90% of the population is asleep, because everyone's worried about their iPhones or their PlayStation 4s or their Xbox Ones or 360s or whatever. When we go out to protest or talk about, the Bill of Rights, or we go to talk about Monsanto, or we're going to talk about JFK, we can't even interact with people on a public setting, because people will look at us like we're crazy. What are you talking to me for? I don't want to talk to you. I'm too busy on my cell phone. You know what I mean?
Well,
and that's what's happening. But this is the goal of these parasites who are running the world. See, look, the United States of America is one of the biggest, best nations as far as people caring about people. It really is, because we loved each other at one point. We cared about our right to bear arms. We cared about community. We don't care about that anymore. And the reason for that is because the way that they break down a nation is they separate us from ourselves. You see. No one wants to talk to their neighbor. No, why do that? We can fucking text them. We can send them a text message. Nobody wants to help the old lady next door shovel snow. We can text the next door neighbor, have them do it. Now, see, that's what happens. The reason for this is because when there is a false flag, okay, when martial law is called, the sheeple are all going to – no one's going to put up a fight. We don't even know how to communicate with each other. So how the hell are we going to put up a fight? The only people that are going to, know how to – react are going to be the ones like me and you, and the ones who care about family, care about society, and have our guns. And that's why they have these FEMA camps. Listen, people, this isn't to scare you. This is to open your eyes and look around. When we look at all the FEMA camps and how many people can actually be held in these FEMA camps, of course the whole population can't. No. People who are speaking out like me or you are going to be the ones that are going to be rounded up at 4:30 in the morning. So again, it's, in order to destabilize a civilization, a nation, you have to dehumanize. And again, for the viewers, go to my YouTube channel, find more about what I'm about, and you'll see why I talk about these things. Because this is real. I mean, these parasites. But go ahead. Well,
let me interrupt you just for a second, because I take an even more cynical view of this than I think you do.
I don't know about that, but I'll listen. I'm always.
Let's give it a shot. Maybe I'm wrong. Okay, we'll compare notes now. Here's the thing. I don't even think they're looking to round us up. I think it's a lot worse than that, because if they rounded us up, they might have to make excuses for how it is we were disposed of, et cetera, and they'd have to feed us and everything else. I think it's a whole lot more of a sound strategy to do what they're doing now, which is to create a surrogate idea of reality, which is all about holding those iPhones and everything else and considering that to be the legitimate part of your life and interaction with other human beings. So that by design is part of the strategy. On top of it, if we will turn on one another, it is a whole lot, less expensive, less, cost. It's more cost efficient, I should say, not only from a monetary sense, but from a sense of resources, to have us basically dismantle ourselves as a collective unit. And this has happened pretty effectively. And, it's not just the people that are in politics that have been pushing this world government concept, this one united, New World Order concept. I was even, last night somebody pointed out to me this whole thing about, you remember Walter Cronkite. You've heard that name before. He was practically, what's that?
I said yes, I've heard of him.
He was practically the standard in news for the longest time. I mean, Bill O'Reilly and all of these other people who have emerged later who, do nothing but obviously deceive us. I mean, to the point where it just becomes so obvious that they get called out by other, meat puppet talking heads out there on Fox, and not just the blondes either, by the way. But moving forward, Walter Cronkite, after he retired, was sitting there and praising and talking about the New World Order and how it would be so much more preferable. And meanwhile, this was the kind of agenda that he was working on when he was Uncle Walt and he was the trusted name in news, when there wasn't all of these possible choices and the mainstream media wasn't doing the slow reaction suicide kind of swan dive it's doing into obscurity now. Okay, this is back when there were 4 channels and he was one of them, who was reporting the facts, who was telling you what the reality was, not only in the, in the next part of the country over, but internationally, et cetera, et cetera. The Vietnam War is brought to you by CBS, which incidentally had plenty of CIA people involved to make sure that the information was properly vetted before the American public ever got to see the edited version. Okay. So all of that, this didn't change. This just simply expanded. And then when you take the fact that there is a greater emphasis on the surrogate lifestyle, there is a greater emphasis on not actually having real interactions with real people on a daily basis. I mean, they don't even want you to talk to anybody via the fast food speakers anymore. They want you to use your iPhone to order your GMO'd imaginary food that they may not take the artificial coloring and flavors out of maybe next year. They don't even want you to talk to the guy who's over there slaving and trying to earn a living off of the subpar minimum wage, et cetera, because real interaction might actually create a real action. So keep us separated, keep us living in the surrogate lifestyle, and make everything sort of a questionable reality so that nothing is really completely emotionally vested with the individual, so therefore we can't stand up in a collective matter. So the First Amendment is under attack directly, but also via mechanisms like political correctness run amok. Also, you can't criticize somebody like Obama. I encountered that myself. Before I ever even really stepped into this arena, in a written fashion, I took crap for making very limited statements regarding his cavalier attitude about the TSA during the State of the Union address some years ago. And I was being threatened and everything else and being called a racist online and everything else because I found it wholly disgusting, completely repugnant that the President of the United States during his State of the Union address was making jokes about people being molested by the TSA.
Unbelievable.
And
unbelievable. This is, this is, again, listen, our presidents aren't elected, folks. They're selected.
Oh, that's familiar. That sounds extremely familiar because that's exactly the kind of thing I say all the time. And now I'm going to shut up and surrender the floor to you. Yeah. Go. What's about the selected politicians and the weapons of mass distraction, which I'm sure you know what I mean by that. Please do.
Yeah, I love it, man. You make me laugh, and it's great to be on the show. Again, thanks for having me on, especially a show that makes me laugh because you got a great sense of humor. And I got to tell you, as much as I want to laugh, I just want to rip apart these parasites that are holding us down because there really is no other word to describe them. Again, when I was on the airport, we can't even go through an airport without, the TSA practically molesting us.
Mm-hmm.
We can't. Okay? All right? Now, that's not only that. The death threats also. The racist threats that we get. Oh, you can't talk about Obama. Hey, now, you're a racist. We finally get a black man in office, and now they're going to play the woman card. They're going to play the Hitler, what'd you call her? Hillary? I love
Hillary,
it. Hillary Clinton, she stuck up for her man while he was out getting, a little whatever, and she's a strong woman, and, of course, all the women activists and all the women who are going to want to see her be elected. She's going to be our next president. You know why? Because we're done with the race card. Now we're going to do the woman card. And listen, let's get into Benghazi. She's killed more people and funded more terrorists than anybody. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And guess what? Guess what? You see, the zombies, people who are asleep, but I hate to call them that, and this is one of the reasons why we do what we do, to get them out of the zombie state, but the zombies are going to elect her because, she's a lesbian, and she's for women, and she's stuck by her husband, and she never left him, and, she's going to take pictures hugging children and all that shit that they do, We're going to see all that bullshit. So guess what, guys? Our next president's going to be a woman, going to be a demon. Probably worse off than Obama. You ever see her face? I mean, it's just the smile. The smile is so fake. It's just, come on, So
she is, yeah, she's the example.
She paid Google millions of dollars, and this is real talk. She just paid Google millions of dollars to censor anyone who tries to discredit her. Don't believe me? Look it up, guys. She paid Google millions of dollars. She's to censor and to censor people who talk about it. She's been doing business with the Ukraine and everyone else, and look, it's just sickening. Like I said, these presidents, they're not elected. I don't do anything. You should have known that through. You guys should have figured it out with Bush. When Florida, when he just got them votes in Florida that were rigged. It's insanity.
Well, let me just say this. Well, let me just say this, which will almost sound like an oppositional statement to what you're saying, but it's not. Okay? Here's the deal. It doesn't matter. Hillary, it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter which side of this alleged separated paradigm you choose. It's all the same thing. I mean, Obama was basically, everybody wanted to call him Bush Light, and I countered that. Calling him actually Bush Dark, because if it were beer, he's a little darker than Bush.
Yeah, so, he would be he would be a darker beer.
Yeah, he'd be a slightly darker beer, and probably a little smoother, really. Actually a lot smoother. He's definitely more slick than Bush ever was, either one of them.
Sure.
Or Senior. But the fact is that there is no real difference, and I don't believe that Hillary will be selected. I do not. I think, honestly, we're looking at President Jeb. I really do. Because I think that there is way too much of a distaste for Hillary to get in there. If she becomes president, the game is over regarding pulling over the true fraud.
I don't know. I have to disagree. Because, listen, we have to understand, when we look at activists like ourselves and truth bringers like ourselves, we're 10% of the country here, okay? All right? Mm-hmm. Listen, I live in a city of millions, and there's not a lot of people awake. Not a lot. And I'm out there daily, passing out flyers, really grinding to really bring truth to people. And I'm telling you, the amount of people that are asleep is phenomenal. So, I don't know. I mean, maybe. Hopefully she's not the president, but, who knows? I think she will be. I think because everyone was so happy to have the first black president and the first gay president. Not that I'm against gay people. I'm not, but the man is gay. Michelle Obama is not a woman. She's a man. She's a tranny. Joan Rivers called it out. But, Joan Rivers is dead. So waka, waka, waka. But, not that I'm against that. I'm not. I have gay uncles. I have gay people in my family. I'm not against that. But come out and say it, okay? Don't rip my country apart. I don't care what you do. I care about how you do your job. And you did a shitty job.
It's the
and you've done a
dishonesty.
shitty job at it. But listen, they played the race card. Everyone in this country that's asleep, they want change. Do you understand? They don't want real freaking change. They want change. And the next change they're going to get is a woman president. Do you realize how happy people would be? Oh my God, it's a woman president. We're dealing with zombie mind-controlled individuals who refuse to wake up. Hillary Clinton, and let's just throw a guess out. My thing is Hillary Clinton's going to be the next president. No, hopefully not, but it's just the mentality of people. People think by seeing a woman president, something's actually going to change, and it's not. Just like they thought to have black man, something would actually change, and he's done more destructive things to the black community than Bush did.
Yeah, well, see, that's why I want to go. That's why I want to kind of counter it, only because of this, and then we'll let this go because I want to get way more into many other subjects. Because at the end of the day, realistically, it doesn't matter which CFR member happens to occupy the meat puppet in chief post. Okay, it really doesn't, because the agenda continues regardless of the alleged change. So here's the thing: the pendulum swung to the alleged liberal area of that left-right paradigm. Both wings of the eagle seem to carry the bird of fascism very well. But the thing is, it's still part of the same animal. So that's what the reality is. Now, as far as the sleepwalkers out there, things have been too liberal. Maybe that's why everything's a mess. So now we got to give them more of a conservative in there, even though it really won't change anything as far as the proliferation of global warfare, as far as the alleged war on terrorism, as far as, the absolute signing off and the evolution of the BS drug war that has continued on and on. All of these things. Our last legitimate president, as far as somebody who thought that they had any sort of power, was probably Nixon in a very vague sense. Previous to that, though, it was a guy named JFK, and you saw both of them didn't complete their terms of office. Okay. For different reasons, and in my estimation, both because the CIA didn't allow it. But that's another story for another day.
The CIA is running ISIS.
Well, of course they are. All of the best, all of the best terrorist organizations in the world are run by the Central Intelligence Agency / Military Industrial Intelligence Complex. That's the reality here. All of these guys were. I mean, even this bogus boogeyman that we disposed of in 2012. That guy allegedly. Osama bin Laden. Well, he was, of course, one of our assets who had been,
Can you say?
What's that?
Can you say a little louder for my viewers to hear that? Can you explain our assets to some of my viewers that are going to catch this on YouTube? Explain a little bit about him.
Well, there was something called the Mujahideen, which was not necessarily part of the individuals who lived in Afghanistan. At the time, the Soviets were involved in the occupation and attempted occupation and failed conquering of the nation of Afghanistan, right? So there was this group of foreign fighters called the Mujahideen who seemed to have all sorts of support from people like, the United States. And what they were doing was they were supporting them under the guise of battling communism, much like we did in Vietnam, which is another BS story. But besides that, again, surrogate warfare, we were backing these guys. And who was one of the great figures in the Mujahideen was this guy, Osama bin Laden. So a guy we were arming, a guy we were funding, a guy we were backing, a guy who we were making sure to clear the way regarding making legitimate connections, while meanwhile his family prospered in partnership with people like the Bush Crime Syndicate. And yes, I did say the Bush Crime Syndicate, not the Bush family. The Bush Crime Syndicate, which has a wonderful lineage, and you can go all the way back to Prescott Bush if you like, and even deeper. But, trading with the Enemies Act, being involved with the alleged enemy of Nazi Germany, so on and so forth. All of that kind of good stuff you can trace back in the profiteering that they did. But, hey, put that aside for a moment. All of this going on, and meanwhile, this guy who's supposedly one of our people flips sides. And remember that guy, Saddam Hussein, who we attacked because he was trying to get weapons of mass destruction. allegedly. Remember that guy? Well, people might not realize that was another guy that at one point we backed because he was fighting our enemies in Iran, who we had basically whipped up into existence via interference through removing people like Mohammad Mossadegh and installing individuals like the Shah of Iran, which gave rise to the Ayatollah Khomeini, which, again, you can find all sorts of interesting, nefarious connections to, well, U.S. intelligence assets, once again. Funny how that keeps coming up. U.S. intelligence assets that essentially put this guy on the throne. And then, again, controlling both sides of the paradigm, we pull this guy out. We have this supposedly extremist end of things during another time when terrorism was supposed to be a great boogeyman, but they couldn't quite sell it to us in the 1970s. And all of this stuff going on during the time that all of this is evolving, post, 7-Day War in 67 and everything else. And every single time I talk to any of these military intelligence guys, anytime I actually talk to one of these allegedly former, but definitely at one point in their lives, spooks of one sort or another, notice that Israel seems to have its little thumb in every single pie all over the place, regardless of the fact that they are no larger than the size of the state of New Jersey, and they are also not of a greater population than, say, the city of New York. But they seem to be involved on a global scale regarding intelligence. But meanwhile, as I said before, and getting back to the original point, well, Osama bin Laden was one of our guys.
Sure was.
And
sure was. And here's the thing is, why is that? I mean, to the sleepwalker, as you call them, it's so hard to believe that. It's so hard to comprehend, to mentally comprehend that maybe, 9/11 may have been an inside job. I mean, maybe that Osama bin Laden was our guy. Maybe that the CIA are funding who we think are terrorists. And I think this is the beautiful thing about being on shows and sharing minds and sharing opinions, is because I love how you explained it and really getting it out there and explaining it step by step on what's really going on.
Well, I
because it's mind-blowing to people who are, like you call, sleepwalkers. You know what I mean?
Well, especially because they say there's no history for this. You're just pulling these things out of thin air.
Oh, yeah. But you're just, 9/11 wasn't an inside job and this and that. And, obviously we're just conspiracy theorists. And we don't know anything. We're just tinfoil hat wearing. Everything's okay. Crazies.
Yeah, right. Or you're parroting, you're just parroting Alex Jones, which I'm not a fan of Alex Jones. But point is,
hey, well, people say Alex Jones is Bill Hicks, and people say, Alex Jones is a CIA op. I don't really care what Alex Jones is. If Alex Jones has some decent news, I will look into it, and if it's really newsworthy, I'll promote it. If it's not, I don't bother with it. And that's just like one of the things, like I say about what I do or what anyone else does. Take what you can from what's out there. If it resonates within your heart, if you know it to be true, then take it and go ahead and, really air it and push it, promote it. You know what I mean? And whatever doesn't, whatever you think is garbage or lies or trash or whatever, throw it out.
Mm-hmm.
But I think consciously, individually, we really need to say, hey, look, shit's messed up in the world. Not only in America, but in the world. And we really need to say it's my duty as a human being to say, I'm going to get out there and make it happen. And I really, really was one of the things, one person can make a difference mentality, I believe. And that's one of the reasons that in the city of Philadelphia, if you look on my YouTube channel, I'm holding it down. You know what I mean? I'm holding things down, and I'm holding asses accountable, because that's what we really need to do. Don't think I live in a small town in Virginia or Georgia or, in Arkansas. Listen, I was in BB, Arkansas when I went to truck driving school. I loved it there. But you know what? I hate the city. So, I'm in a city of millions. if I moved out of Philadelphia and moved back to Arkansas, or I moved to Georgia, or if I moved to like Maine or something like that, where there's not a big population, I would tear shit up in that population. So make it a point to be productive to everyone who's listening, and really tear it up. If you're in a small town, tear it up. If you're in a big city, tear it up. I mean, nothing's more disheartening than people who call us conspiracy theorists and sit on their ass and do nothing. If I'm a conspiracy theorist, if I'm a tinfoil hat wearer, okay, if you're a tinfoil hat wearer, then prove me wrong. Go out there and do the research and prove us wrong. Otherwise, shut up, because we don't want to hear it. You know what I mean?
Right. And because you've mentioned tinfoil hat 3 times now, I have to do this. This is something I do on my show, and it's an obligatory apology, so please bear with me for a moment. I need to apologize to any individual that I have ever described as wearing a tinfoil hat, because the CIA was actually beaming things into your brain. You were correct, and I was wrong to have scoffed at you. I am very deeply and extremely regrettably sorry for ever having categorized you as insane. Thank you. Okay, sorry. I always have to, if somebody says tinfoil hat 3 times, I got to do it.
Tinfoil hat. What's that like? Well, I'm not going to get into that, but
No,
listen, and listen, hold on. Now, mind control is real. Let's be honest. I mean, that's why 90% of the frigging population is asleep. Mind control is real. It's not. Oh my God, you stand up for the Second Amendment, Paul. You're fighting against Monsanto. How could you believe in such kooky, crazy things? We're dealing with people who have technology way beyond what we think. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
We're dealing with people, or beings, whatever you want to call them. So we're dealing with beings that have not only technology, but they're 100 years advanced to what we are. So to say something is impossible is ridiculous. Mind control. Mind control is on your frigging TV. That's why it's called television. They're telling you, television programming. They're telling you that they're programming you. Television telling you, get it? Television program. Or what they call it, television programming. Same thing.
Right. Programming is what the real root word is here, and that's exactly what it is. Not only via the television, but via the internet now. They've gotten a little bit more sophisticated with that. Of course, we're still playing with probably something that is not even remotely close to what could be done, technologically speaking. We are dealing with rocks and sticks while they have machine guns still, but we are attempting to make a difference. And why? Because there are so many different ways that they have seized upon to manipulate the being into not only self-destructing and being completely aloof regarding connections to other human beings, but they've also decided to control the language. They've decided to control the habits via, all of these addictive things that they place into food, into drinks, into everything. There's always like an addiction agenda, which is constant. Although, of course, if you make sure to buy their particular brand of approved drugs and you get addicted to those, that is perfectly acceptable. Okay. But if you search out something and you become a junkie of the junk, any kind of junk, whether it be junk food, the junk you squirt into your veins, or if you're simply addicted to soda, it's okay, because all of that stuff has some sort of corporate backing and serves the financial industries. That's just fine, because Big Pharma is something you need to feed, and the banks are something you need to feed, and the larger corporate structures, you need to feed those.
Let's not forget alcoholism, okay? Because God forbid you sit around and you have a drink, you're an alcoholic. But that's okay, because it's perfectly fine.
Well, yeah, that's acceptable. That's fully acceptable, even though.
And don't sell it. Listen, don't sell it. Don't sell it, God forbid, because they'll be losing money. Don't sell marijuana. Don't sell that shit that they pump in their veins. You don't want to sell heroin. You don't want to do that. They're losing money. Listen, the CIA has a lot of money invested in Afghanistan with the poppy seed, so they want to make that money. They don't want you making it.
Well, exactly, and but that's the point, though, is that
not that you would want to anyway, because I think it's wrong for anyone out. I don't want to hear, oh, my life sucks so bad I have to stand on a corner and sell drugs. Bullshit. You gave up on life. You chose that life.
Well, but the thing is, you are allowed to participate in that system, but unless you are a large player, you're not allowed to get away with it. See, you can be punished as a low-level dealer because that's revenue generation for very little investment. That's fine. But if you're a major trafficker, you can be partnered with the government. That's not a problem. See, this is how the game is played. If you're actually a big asset, then the selective enforcement of the laws changes a bit for you, doesn't it?
Have you watched my video? The chemtrail, where they had the I don't know, government officials that showed up at the event?
No, I didn't catch that one yet, but do tell people about it, though.
Well, the audio was off, and let me say, my phone was hacked, and for some of you who say I'm crazy, no, I'm not crazy. All my videos, everything I do is via my phone. I don't own a computer. I'm a single father, so, I don't have the money to own a computer right now, and the internet connection, and because Comcast is completely fucking ridiculous. But anyway, so we had a protest. I had a protest. We were supposed to have 300 people, okay, going to this protest, right? Are you with me?
I'm with you.
Now, out of all the protests in the country, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, my protest, for the past 4 years now, has been the biggest protest. Look around. And I directly said to myself, I said, well, who's mostly responsible for what's going on in the world? It's the frigging media. The media is not covering it. The media is not informing people, as we talked about a couple minutes ago, television programming, So I made my main objective was to have the protest out in front of Fox News. There were supposed to be 300. I think like 30 came, but they had. When I go to any protest, when I host a protest, I take it upon myself to interview people. I love to hear what people have to say. Again, dehumanization, what they want. I make it my individual, job to, talk to you. I want to talk to you. I want to see how your mind works. I want to see why you're out here. And more importantly, I want to get it on video. So I'm videoing people. I'm talking to people. And then one girl says, she goes, Paul, I said, what? She goes, there's agents across the fucking street. I'm like, no way, whatever. And I blew her off. I started, I kept interviewing people, talking to people. And she's like, Paul, look across the street. I look across the street, and I'll be damned if there wasn't two gentlemen, a black guy and a white guy, who are abnormally weird-looking, across the street filming us, talking on their cell phones and filming us. So me being me, a complete outrageous journalist, as some may say, but I like that because I think that a lot of people, who are blue-collar workers, or in the ghetto or whatever, who can relate to that because, we're all sick of seeing people being so professional all the time. We want to see people in the streets, or in your county or wherever you're from, getting out there and holding asses accountable for. So when I seen it, I said, well, this is who I am. Let me go expose them. So I ran across the street, camera in hand. I'm like, why are you out here? And now, again, the video footage for this event, okay, the audio is really bad. It's out of sync, but you can hear what's being said. The audio is good, but if I'm talking to you now, you won't hear exactly what we're saying until 3 seconds later. So the audio sync. Again, my phone was hacked, but I managed to have a friend who videoed me exposing them. So what I did was I also posted that. I posted where I had my phone purposely on his phone, to where you can see the encounter. But the one thing they turned around and they said, well, yeah, we know who you are. And I said, okay, whatever. I'm nobody. I'm just some guy wanting truth, which we all,
Right.
And then they turned around and they said, well, pretty funny that 300 people didn't show up and only 30. And I'm like, so basically you're insulting the people fucking across the street, okay? You're insulting people because you don't have the balls to get your ass across the street and protest with us. I said, why are you over here? Why aren't you over here with us? And I got into executive orders and Obama, and the one color guy, he did agree. He said, listen, I'm not a fan of some of the executive orders that Obama signed, which is crazy for a government agent to say that. It was crazy. But he said it. Because we have to realize, agents or not, they have to live in our country with us. Unless you got an underground bunker, unless you got a ticket in these underground bases, which, by the way, they've been hoarding food and everything else, and that's a show on its own. We can dabble in that if you want. But, unless you have a ticket into where these parasites are going to hide, when the shit hits the fan, you're stuck with us. And I talked to a lot of police officers, and they all acknowledge chemtrails. They all acknowledge Monsanto. They all acknowledge the frauds in office. And the one thing that they acknowledge is that, look, where do you think they're going to be when the shit hits the fan? Where do you think they're going to be when they're going to be with their families. We need to worry about NATO. NATO's the real threat because NATO is going to have these troops that aren't American on our soil. They're going to be the ones that are going to be fighting us. It's not going to be the police. I mean, yeah, we can say, we're going to have a civil war and all that. Yeah, maybe that may happen, but still, the cops are going to be protecting their families, okay, no matter what.
Right.
Because if I'm a police officer, okay, I'm not going to be one to look, at my house, crazy shit's going down, in my house. I want to be armed to the teeth, protecting my family. And I don't want to be out like, protecting, doing this or doing that. That's why NATO is the real threat. But anyways, check my video out. It's called Worldwide March Against Chemtrails. Okay, I exposed these agents. They showed up. I believe a lot of things I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I like to take things with a grain of salt. I like to have real hard facts on some of the things that I believe. I didn't believe these guys were agents. And yes, they look funny. I got into that on other radio shows, why I thought they looked the way they looked, but I'm not going to get into that now. But there were agents across the street at our protests, and we exposed them. Mm. And that just goes to show that when you speak up, when we empower ourselves to say, hey, look, I don't care where I live in this country, if it's a big city, if it's a small town, get off your butt, empower yourself, and shit will happen. I get into a lot about how the conscious works, and I think if enough of us think that change is possible, if enough of us think what's on your show is real, and what you say we can change things, we can. If enough of us think that, it's possible. And I think one of the things the elitists fear is they fear, us all collectively, mentally, getting together and saying shit can change. And this is why they poison our food, our air, our water, the vaccines. Because they know how the conscious works, okay? Right. They know how, thought manifestation. In other words, whatever you think, you can manifest that thought into reality. And that's why I tell people one person can make a difference. You know what I'm saying? You may be a little heavyset. You may say, hey, look, I'm scared. I don't want to join a group or this or that. But all right, fine. Get yourself a press pass. Get your ass out there and make it happen. And from there, you'll meet people. You'll start getting comfortable. You get yourself a radio show like the one I'm on now or the part-time one I used to host or whatever. You really make things happen because it's possible. And even if we do fall, even if it doesn't happen, at least on an individual level, on a soul level, if people understand how the soul works, how the fact that we, unless you're religious, and that's fine, I believe that we don't die after death. I believe that, we can be recycled or reincarnated. So therefore, you can say, hey, well, shit is so bad, and it really is. When we really stack up what's going on, the true evil, disgusting agenda, it looks like we're not going to make it. I'm not going to bullshit anybody on the show. It looks like we're not going to make it. But it doesn't matter. You see, because as soon as you install that in your frigging mind, you've already failed. I don't do what I do. The host of the show don't do what they do because they think, hey, look, we're going to fail. We do what we do because even if we do fail, we can say, hey, fuck it. Excuse my language, but screw it. We individually gave our energy, put that effort, and you never know. Something might happen in this matrix, this false reality that we live in, and it may happen. And that's the beautiful thing about I always just get mad when people used to say, well, it's a beautiful time we live in. I'm like, well, what are you talking about? It's fucking crazy, But it really is beautiful. And the reason it's beautiful is because, listen, we're in a spiritual warfare right now, okay? We are. We're in a spiritual war right now because, like I said, dehumanization, they're dehumanizing us. They don't want us to interact with each other in a human-on-human way, okay? You can't even meet anybody. If you want a girlfriend or a relationship, you got to do it on the internet nowadays. You can't even do it out in public.
Well, it's because we don't
think you're crazy. It's insanity. So
we don't naturally congregate anymore. All of those natural things are under attack. Right. Socialization, as well as the panopticon of the medical / physical tyranny which goes on regarding the vaccines, the water, all the things that you did mention.
Look at all these. Hold on, real quick, and I'm going to let you get back on. Just because I'm fired up right now, and I do that when I get on radio shows. I really let it all out.
Go for it.
I'm letting it all out, and I'm telling you, look at all these so-called kids that went in these schools and shot all these people. Look at all the Batman guy. He went in there, he's shooting up everybody. They're all medicated. They're all frigging medicated.
Mm-hmm.
And when you see the picture of them when they do it and you see them in the courtroom, they're two different people. Two different people.
Right.
And that goes back to the mind control, and that goes back to the fact everybody's on fucking drugs. Look, I'm a single father, okay? I have a kid who's slow. Born with extra chromosomes, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Born, couldn't even walk, couldn't even talk. I helped her walk myself. She's walking great now, doing great in school. Not that I'm a big fan of what they teach in school, but you know what I mean? She's doing great. She's talking great. She's on she has no medication, no meds. Right. I refuse to have my child on meds. You understand? And that's what I'm saying is that if we, instead of saying, hey, let the school system raise my kids. Hey, let's get my kid on Prozac or Zephyrin or whatever the hell they call it out there. And, instead of doing that, how about if we become parents? Because what's happened, again, dehumanization. So many people are dehumanized that they don't empower themselves to say, hey, look, let me actually empower myself to raise my kids the way I want it. Because so many people are asleep. And when we look at all these medicines that these kids are on, all these prescriptions, what are the side effects? Look on TV, you'll see it. Why all you people were asleep, I call you zombies. You call them what, sleepwalkers? Not to be mean, but look on TV, or when you're watching your Jerry Springer, you're going to see, do you have depression and mood swings? Well, we have something for you. Here's the Zoloft. Side effects are cramps, internal bleeding, suicidal thoughts, shortness of breath. The side effects are more screwed up than the problems you have now.
Oh, forget it, man. It's even worse than that because they got cream for dry skin that'll turn around and give you suicidal ideation. May include bleeding from the nose, may include, shortness of breath, increased heart palpitations. If you've ever had a heart attack or any sort of brain aneurysm, you probably shouldn't use this cream. I mean, all this stuff, even stuff for, God help us all, but even things that are meant to lube up a woman after post-menopause, right? These things are, they may cause insanity, may cause bleeding, may cause death. That's worth a lube job, I'll tell you that. Okay, fine.
Yeah, grab a stick of butter. I don't know what to tell you.
Wow, yeah.
I don't know. I don't trust anything. You know what I'm saying? I don't even put on sunscreen or lotion or nothing. I'm paranoid when I use shampoo. You know what I mean? That's just how I am. Okay.
No. I'm not going to let you get away with that. You're not paranoid. Okay.
I don't know. I mean, maybe I am with that. I mean, maybe I am. Some of my friends say, "Hey, Paul, you're a little too paranoid."
Listen,
but go ahead.
Maybe you are, but that's a separate case here. If you're questioning the pharmaceuticals that are being introduced into the cosmetics and so on and so forth on an industrial scale, I don't call that paranoia. I call that a little bit of something that really is lacking in this country, in this world at this point in time, which is called common sense. You should be questioning what chemicals you're putting onto and into and around your body at all times if you have any sort of idea in any part of your being that you have a desire for self-preservation. Okay, that's just reality. That's not paranoia, my friend. Now, I'm going to dial this whole thing back and ask you a question. I am willing to bet that there was a point at which you were not aware of all this.
You know what? I love this show. It was a little weird at first because we couldn't get the audio connection, but I love it, again, because I can laugh, and that question was phenomenal. I was never asked that question, I don't think, on any of the radio shows, on many of radio shows, and it's a great question. And yeah, there was a time when I wasn't awake to this. You know what I was doing? Hanging in bars,
Mm-hmm.
having random sex. I don't know. That's what we do. We hang in bars, have sex with women, play video games. We used to have bike races. We used to get on the bikes and race and stuff like that. Yes, I wasn't really doing anything.
I was a musician when I was sleepwalking a lot, and I can identify with all the stuff you're talking about right there. So
No shit. No, I was just a regular guy, a regular sleepwalker.
yeah.
The only thing on my mind was when I was going to hang out, go to work, drink, and have sex. That's what people do. I mean, that's what I used to do. I mean, why not? That's what people do. And my whole thing was with that is when I first woke up was with the Occupy movement, right before the Occupy movement.
Mm-hmm. So what got you though? What actually got you to say, wait a minute?
Well, things just screwed up. I mean,
I've been had here. What was it that actually grabbed you? Because I talk about this all the time, and I always want to know what it was.
It's a really good question. It's a really good question, and I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
There had to be like an.
Hold on.
You might have to think about it a moment, but there had to be an aha moment.
No, there was, but I'm just trying to remember it. So, I mean, I'm constantly working, constantly doing what like you do, and you never really sit down and say to yourself, because right now we're in the moment,
Mm-hmm.
Even at work, you never really sit down and go, oh my God, when did I actually wake up? But the Occupy movement is when I really looked around me and said, wow, like, this is my time to shine and get out there. Other than that, I mean, well, I don't know if I would really want to talk about this on your show because people are going to be like, wow, he's complete insanity. I've been dealing with the paranormal,
Mm-hmm.
ghosts and stuff like that, UFOs, but I'll say that term lightly for the viewers, okay? I've been dealing with the paranormal for a long time. So, I mean, through dreams, I've had a lot of visions, different things like that,
Mm-hmm.
of chaos, if you want to call it that, uprisings, different things like that. And that's hard for people. It's hard for the sleepwalkers to believe. Oh, well, this guy got all his knowledge from Alex Jones or from visions. I mean, it's but that has that just goes to show that obviously anyone who questions that isn't in tune with your subconscious or how this fake quote unquote fake reality we live in, because it is a controlled reality. But I mean, wow. Let me
just say something about that real quick.
It's a hard question. I mean, I don't know. Well, I honestly don't know.
All right. Let me just add this in. Hang on. Let me just add this in, because here's the thing that a lot of people don't realize, and I have conversations with a lot of different people that are involved in various different media.
Okay.
In this vein, let's just say, people that are trying to be free thinkers, people that are going outside of the box, people that are not accepting the programming, that are creating what I'd like to term as the anti-programs, which mine is one of them. Okay. The thing is, a lot of them mark a serious sort of intuitive shift, which occurred during a certain time period. Okay. So you're not alone in that. It's not something that everybody can quantify very easily, but it is something that happens. Okay. And for those that want to push back against that, well, I guess if you're Christian, you really shouldn't. I guess if you're somebody who does believe that there are questionable things that have been taught to us over the years, and perhaps I'm even seeing stuff now, and I'm trying to look into it a little more, not saying I buy it, but even the flat earth people are.
Yeah, that is pretty something to, to look into. I mean, I've heard about it recently, and I'm not going to, like you said, I mean, I'm not going to brush it off, but, I mean, look into it. Just see. Who knows?
Well, I say look into everything, because at some point or another, all of us came to the understanding that something was very, very wrong. And then there was usually a catalyst which seized us personally in one way or another that caused us to not really have a choice about doing this. It became a compulsion where it was like, look, I gotta get this out there because I don't want anybody else to be walking around with their eyes closed so that they can stumble into every single sharp object there is on the planet, and there are many. So, because we care about our fellow man a little bit, we say, even if I go to reach 5 people, that's 5 less people that are going to be walking around with their eyes closed looking to get run over.
Sure.
So we all kind of went through that, and some of us had an intuitive sort of thing, and from various spiritual angles. I mean, people that are devout Christians all the way to nearly agnostics, people that are involved in Wiccan religions, people that are involved in the Buddhist sort of discipline, which is not really a religion, people that are involved in all sorts of different faiths and circles of spiritualism. Okay.
To answer the first question, I would honestly have to say it was right before the Occupy movement, because the first time that my daughter's mom ran out on her, okay, this was right before the Occupy movement. Like, there's a group there called Uncut, and it was they're obviously an activist group, but I mean, I was sort of kind of aware of what was being sprayed in the sky was weird, but I always took it as, well, that's weird, but, you brush it off. You're like, well, fuck it. I've got a house party to go to or whatever. I got to go to work. But when I really started seeing the Occupy movement, it's like something awoke in me. Not that I didn't know what was going on, but it was something that said it's time to make it like a switch.
Well, like I said, like an intuitive sort of message.
Right. Well, not even a message. It was a switch. I seen everyone protesting in large amounts, and no one was covering it. Like, and anyone who was doing journalism at that time, in a like looking around, like, it's kind of weird. Like, if you're a professional fighter, MMA, boxer, whatever, you look around and you say, "Wow, this guy is, boxing, and I can do it 30 times better," or, this guy's throwing front kicks, but I could literally be a champion and take whatever they're doing, train harder, and reciprocate it, and do it frigging 30 times better. And that's what I did in activism. I seen what was going on, and it's like a switch hit me, and it said, "Paul, it's time to wake. It's time to not that I wasn't awake, but it's time to make it happen." And I got out there. I remember I had a 3G camera phone, and I just literally ripped shit up in Philadelphia. I really, and I looked at who was doing interviews. Like, when I first did my part-time radio show, I mean, I'm not even going to call it a radio show, just interviews. We'll call it that, the moment of truth. Okay.
Okay.
I looked at who was doing interviews. This was, 8 years ago. I looked at who was doing interviews, because that's when I really started. I looked at who was doing interviews, and I said, well, shit, I can do better than this. I interviewed Sophia Smallstorm. I had Scott Stevens on. I had Peggy Kane before she literally fell off the face of the earth. And I don't know if she was threatened or she, whatever, but she deals in a lot of the UFO stuff that I've dealt with. She just disappeared. So whoever, I seen their interviews. I said, well, shit, like, if you had me on the show today, you have an aspiring journalist, up-and-coming journalist, and say, hey, I want to interview Paul Wesley and do it 3 or 4 times better than what they've done on the Ochelli show, And that's what I want. I encourage people. I say, hey, look, whatever I do, do it better. I want you to do it better. I want you to – I think the most heartbreaking thing when I was at the last Monsanto event, and this is real talk too, I seen a guy, he had great camera equipment, looked like he was ready to go, and I started interviewing these 3 people, matter of fact, 4 or 5, whatever they were. And he just looked scared. Like, he looked like he was ready, to jump in and do his thing. And as soon as he seen me do my thing, it's like he was intimidated and scared. And it broke my frigging heart, because that's not what I'm out there for, you know what I mean? So after I got done the interview, and it's the intro to the March Against Monsanto event, and I said to him, I'm like, look, man, outdo me. Like, do it. I'm like, don't be. I seen your hand shaking. I could remember the first video I ever made. It was exposing CBS 3 Philadelphia, and my hands were like, the camera's literally shaking when I did it. And and I seen him, and I said, look, man, don't be nervous no more, man. Come on, let's get it going. He had way better equipment than I did. But as soon as he seen me and he's, it was like, well, oh, wow, like and I'm like, I don't want that. Like, I want people to do better. I want people to say, I can do a better radio show than anyone, But as far as waking up, I mean, I just, you see what's going on, you see what's being sprayed, you see you eat food and you're like, wow, this doesn't taste what it tasted like 5 years ago. And this is real talk, too. Polio string cheese, for one, if you eat that shit. If you eat it, it doesn't taste like cheese, it tastes like plastic. What are they putting in that shit that makes it taste like plastic? I told my daughter the same thing. I was like, I don't want you eating that crap. I don't care what these kids in school eat. It tastes like plastic. So my great awakening was I just knew it was going on, wasn't acting on it until, 8 years ago. And, I just really started dabbling in it. And as soon as the Occupy movement hit, I just said, it's time to make it happen. And literally try to, be the best, improve myself. And whether it be independent journalism, doing what you're doing, interviewing, hats off to you guys, for doing that. Because we have to better ourselves. We can't just I've interviewed, oh my God, and Laura Eisenhower. Mm-hmm. Who would have thought some dude like me would have her on my show? Because I'm putting in work, because I'm out in the streets, because I'm spreading the importance of love vibration, because I'm holding asses accountable for this tyranny. Work hard, work hard, work hard. If the next man's working hard, work harder. When he's spending time with his family, work. When he's sleeping, work. Okay? When he's working, work frigging harder. It's that simple. We, as independent journalists, as activists, as radio show hosts, we have to nail it in our minds that, regardless when we had that epiphany, oh my God, I woke up, It's what we're doing. We're up against parasites and psychopaths. So we literally have to, install in our minds that we have to make it a sickening obsession to want to better ourselves.
I'll tell you what else. It makes it like you're kind of a strange animal in that way because you want to actually encourage others to
it's weird, I know.
To do better and everything else. And I'm telling you, I have the same problem. Because I don't want to just – I'm a little different than a lot of them because I have a different sort of conversation. It's not a set interview. It's not – everything involves, as I said, it's unscripted. I'm not going to even discuss with you basically what we're going to talk about. We're just going to go. All right?
Yeah.
So it's not a scripted interview. It's not structured in a specific way. I mean, as I go, I sort of structure things. But – it's only to make it coherent for the listener. I do a little bit different, and I think that's what I add. Now, do I think that I'm doing the greatest interview job in the world? No. And I want to see people get interested in a guy like you or anybody else. Or
hey, you're not doing a good interview with this nasty-ass audio the first 6 minutes of the show.
Exactly. But I've had...
come on, man. You got Paul Wesley, True Chaser on your show, and you're scrubbing it up. No, I'm only kidding.
Yeah, right. Well, I got, but you're a guy from YouTube, okay. But I've had professors on this show. I've had witnesses to history on this show.
No. Are you getting sensitive now? Come on, man.
Not at all, brother. I'm telling you that no matter who it is,
have you had people expose the media like I have? Have you had people hold down shit like I've done? Well, guess what? Now you have.
Well, you know what? First of all, yes, I have, because you're on here right now. Now, second thing is, I've had...
I'm only kidding with you, but
it's cool, brother. I am not easily offended. Do not.
But and that here's the thing. Like you said, we have to really, empower others because when I seen the guy when I was doing the interviews, okay, he just seemed like that he wanted to do it. He wanted to jump in, and he should have, and he probably would have did a better job than me.
Well, see, that's
and it hurt me. Listen, it hurt me because he just walked away, and I got him. I said, "Look, man, no, like make it happen, make it happen." I like my kids. I tell my kids all the time, I'm like, I want you to grow up. I want you to do better than me. I want you to do better than me.
See, and I've got the same kind of mentality. That's what I'm trying to tell you, is that no matter who it is that I'm speaking to or what kind of information I'm trying to get to, I do it in my way, and I hope that somebody else does it in their way, and I figure that all of us collectively will be able to add enough raindrops into the ocean to create a tidal wave that could sweep away the sort of diseased structure that is on the shores of humanity. Okay? That's the way I see it. So you do what you do. I'm glad. Everybody, do what you can do to expand the base of knowledge, to not just feed people the garbage, to give people something to consider, to get them to think for themselves, to get them to understand the reality around them much better, regardless of whether you agree with me, disagree with me, think that everything I talk about is valid. I mean, I had a guy on here several times who was at Abu Ghraib's prison talking about the torture over there, talking about the policy that the Iraq War was prosecuted under, talking about the fact that he had encountered the alleged head of ISIS during the Jessica Lynch affair, because that guy was present at that time and was actually part of the infrastructure of Saddam Hussein's Mukhabarat organization, by the way. This guy was former military intelligence, the only military intelligence asset in United States history to ever be renditioned by his own people and survive. Okay, that guy I had on. But anybody from him to a guy doing, I mean, I've had people on that just do a blog talk show that don't have too many listeners. I've had people on that have a YouTube channel, not like yours where you actually have people that go to it, but I mean, just a couple of people happen to tune in. They're happy when they see 20 people decided to listen to one of their presentations.
Absolutely. And, you know, not to cut you off, but here's the thing also, and I think that's what really discourages people. And again, you know, like what you're doing, you know, everyone really needs to understand that, you know, even if you have a radio show and you have people that believe in maybe UFOs or basically what we're going through right now, it's tyranny, or, you know, basically where it's you know, we can, what I call the parasites. Listen, I don't think any of these people are human that are in power, and that's the whole different radio show. And, you know, you've browsed my YouTube channel, and you know what I'm talking about. So to anyone who listens, feel free to browse, and you'll see they're parasites. These individuals are just not. They're not human. They don't have no empathy. They don't have any integrity. They don't have any compassion, and that's what they're trying to strip away from us. But, you know, like you were saying, you know, have you know, and I love that about what you're doing is you'll have anyone on that really wants to make a difference. Whether you have 20 views on the YouTube channel, whether you have 10. I remember, and this is real talk. Also, I remember when I had my first 50 views on my video. And I was the happiest guy in the world because, like, oh my God, 50 people viewed that video. That, like you said earlier, you know, out of them 50, if you could wake up and empower 7 out of that 50, you could make one YouTube video and say, screw it. I'm making one YouTube video out of what I got off the Ochelli show, out of, you know, what I've got off of the Paul Wesley's videos. Just make one video. Say you get 30 views, okay? Share it with everyone and say, that's it, I want to quit. I don't want to do anything else. I just want to make one video. You've saved 7 lives out of that 30, if not more. You've done more than 90% of the people that are where you live at. Like, you know, yeah, I get thousands of viewers on each video. You know, yes, but that doesn't mean anything. I can have 4,000 hits on a video, but if only, you know, no one watches it, then it doesn't mean, like, no one, if no one learns anything from it, then it means nothing.
Well, and that's the thing also, is that not only do you have the opportunity to possibly change somebody's life just by making a statement, which is to try and better the situation in one way or another, but sometimes you plant seeds and you give somebody something to consider, and over time it germinates. And you never know who they might reach. That's another thing. You know, I found it amazing when I had this kid on recently who's 17, right? And this was last month. 17 years old. He's starting a show actually on this network on Sunday, okay? And he was 17 years old and had all of this stuff together in his mind that it took me until my mid-30s to get. And right now I'm in my early 40s. I've had 3 children. One of them is less than a year old. My oldest was born in 1999. So we've got a divergent kind of group of children here. All of them, though, I want to see their futures better. I not only want to see my children's futures better, I want to see everybody who can hear the sound of my voice have a better future and actually have a future. And that's what it's about, is trying to make a difference so that this toxic agenda, no matter how you view it, no matter how much minutia you want to argue about, or whether you think it's more important that we are being inundated by alien forces, or that the government is lying to us, or that we're being poisoned via the vaccines, or whatever else, it doesn't matter what your particular agenda is. Collectively, if we all begin to shift the conversation, then that will begin the process of potential healing. The fact that even the mainstream is using terms like militarization for the police force, that was forced into the conversation not by the scriptwriters, but by individuals like all of us who caused them to have to recognize that as a term, who caused that to have to recognize that as a part of the discussion. These kinds of things are occurring all the time, and this is one of the sort of underestimated areas when it comes to the war is on for your mind, like some people say. Okay? It is. It is on for your mind, your soul, and the mind and souls of everyone who you can lay your eyes on, everyone who you can imagine you're in touch with via the surrogate reality of the internet, via the individuals that you can just step outside of your door right now and probably not see too many of them in a lot of places, because a lot of them are inside staring at their fondle slabs, televisions, etc., etc. But for those that you can see on occasion, you can actually do something just with your one voice and trying to disseminate real information one way or another. I mean, tell me where I'm the crazy conspiracy theorist when it comes to that, please.
I think you hit it on the money. I mean, I really do. And the beautiful thing about this is that, again, like we talked about earlier, if we look at it from an outside view, it looks like it's doom and gloom. Okay? If we look at it from an outside view, everyone's being vaccinated. Look, in California, they have the schools going door to door trying to vaccinate these kids. I just seen a clip on that from one of the radio shows I was on, and I just was like, oh my God, I can't believe it's gotten this far. Like, oh my, wow. Like, this is real. This is really happening. And, and when we look at the militarization of police, when we look at the economic crash of the dollar, when we look at the fact that China and Russia are joining forces against us, when we look at the fact that everyone seems to be wanting America to fight against each other, when we look at all this stuff, it seems like checkmate. But, again, like, the beautiful thing about it is that we got to do our part. And I'm a warrior. Or I consider myself one. I hear a lot of these New Agers, these spiritual gurus say, oh, la, 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 la. I'm going to sit around and meditate and ignore everything. And if I ignore everything, I'm going to pretend that nothing's going on in the world. Mm. And I kind of beg to differ, because I kind of feel that, things are going on in the world. And I think that by ignoring it, that shows your ignorance. And through your ignorance, we'll enslave humanity. And I also believe that these people who say, these New Agers, I'm sure your viewers will come across them. They say, well, I can't wait to go home. I can't wait to, I'm just going to plant seeds, plant gardens, and ignore everything and raise my vibrational energy, which is great. Raise your awareness and your vibrational energy.
Absolutely. Do that.
But they said, what the thing that boils my blood, that's an old reptilian term, but that's a whole different subject. But what boils my blood is the fact that people believe, like, oh, well, I can't wait to get off this rock that we call Earth and go home. My whole thing is, listen, I know what happens when we die. I know. And that's a whole different other show, too. I talk about that in presentations that I've done. And I'll tell you what, I willingly want to sign up to come back again, because I love it. I I love the fact of hugging people after a hard day's work of activism. I love the fact of touching people after being on great radio shows like this. I love the fact of keeping in touch with hosts like yourself who get to see me grow as an activist after I've been on your show. And I get to see you grow as a host after I've been on. I just love connecting with people. I love people empowering themselves. I mean, I love this. I mean, I honestly, literally could not see myself doing anything else. So to say, oh my God, I can't wait till I go home and get off, that's a sissy way out. It's a coward way out. It's a form of mind control to make people not want to empower themselves. It's been one hell of a ride. And of course I want to come back. I mean, it's ridiculous to say anything otherwise, because my whole thing is like, say we die right now, okay? Mm-hmm. How many people didn't we reach? Let's say I reached 1,000, I don't know, 10,000 people, okay? Mm-hmm. When I die, there's another 50, 60,000 I could have reached if I did things differently. If I maybe I should have got out of bed earlier and held that event. Maybe I should have did this. So if this planet is actually a reincarnating, trap to where we're constantly, reincarnated to experience things, to raise our vibrations till we get off this prison planet. Because that's what we live on, is it's a prison planet. And the elitists and the ones who run it are the ones who are making people suffer. They're the ones who are bringing down humanity because they're frigging parasites, and they get a sickening high off of doing so. Molesting children, seeing poverty, drone striking people when they shouldn't be, okay? All right, so these are not normal people we're dealing with. Right. They're psychopaths. So the point of the matter is this. A pussy would say, I want to go home and not come back. A warrior that stands up not for humanity, but for every living being on this rock we call Earth, flat or round, I don't give a crap. A real warrior would say, hey, look, I'm here to do what I have to do. I don't need a break. Send me back again. Send me back until I turn into stardust. You know what I'm saying? And I love it. And I love it because I get a high off of doing what we do. It's kind of like someone who's a wrestler. He comes down, the aisle, and all his fans are there. Or a boxer, he comes down and he's getting ready for that big boxing match, and he's getting ready to fight. You get that adrenaline rush. Mm-hmm. I get that adrenaline rush before I go on any radio show, before I go to any protest, before any event I do. It could just be me even going to an event just to learn, and that's a lost art. People don't even want to go to events to learn. They just want to, throw their camera out and be the next big thing.
Right.
Right. And I don't believe that. I think that I've been doing this for 8 years now, damn near 9, and I've gotten to a point, early on in my journey of truth, I can honestly say I was ego-driven. Very hungry just to get the next scoop out, get it out there, and do this and do that. After my first year, you really it's kind of like if you're in war, you have a soldier and you throw him in battle. He's like, oh, I can't wait to go to war. I can't wait to go to war. And he's done his first tour, he's done his second tour. You know what I mean? And then he's this old war battle scar veteran, and he's like, yeah, okay, whatever, And like, yeah, I've heard all the blah blah blah. Yeah, whatever. Just sign me up for another tour. And I think that's really what a lot of people, with myself, when I first started again, it was all about the me mentality. And I learned real quick, thankfully, that it wasn't about me. It wasn't about me. It was about everybody else, and it was about humanity and everyone else. And as soon as I realized that, that's when doors started opening up. That's when radio shows started opening up. And my advice would be to people who want to get into activism or radio shows or whatever. It's hard work. You're going to deal with a lot of criticism. When you get noticed enough, there's times when you're going to say, "Well, like, is it really worth it?" Should I keep on doing this? Should I just worry about making my family happy? And just saying, fuck it, I've done enough. I mean, I've interviewed enough. I've done enough. And that's when we separate the real journalists, the real talk show host, from the ones who are just in it for the me mentality. And that's why people like me, and that's why people like you are still pushing love vibration, are still pushing truth. Because I'm sure you can account on this also. We've had our view of the one hit wonders, the ones who are just in it to win it and get on InfoWars, and you know what I mean, the ones who just want to have a shotgun in their hand and just say, hey, I'm for freedom, fuck it, boom boom boom, let me show a breast and here I am, and get on InfoWars, and you never hear from them again. But you have us hardened veterans who are out there, who get the death threats, who have to wake up every day and do our job, and really, it weighs down on us seeing what's going on. It weighs through the years. It's like basically battle scars, because we are soldiers in the game, spiritually and physically. It weighs down on us because we're seeing more and more people asleep. We have to battle to wake more and more people up. It's rough, but God damn it, I wouldn't trade it for anything. Nothing.
Absolutely. And you know what? I agree with you. I mean, your sentiments here are dead on when it comes to it. I embrace the idea of death as another adventure, but I'm not going to pass up on the adventure I'm involved in here, and I'm not going to pass up on the possibility of making other people's adventures a lot better, because that's the way I see it. Doesn't matter where I go, if I get recycled to here or if there's someplace else to go, I don't care. I'm ready to do this wherever I wind up. And that's the bottom line, is that I want to improve it, not for myself, but for everybody, because those who have the wherewithal to stack this panopticon against us, and when I say us, I don't just mean Americans, I don't just mean you and me, I mean us as human beings who have been deceived for so very long, who have been manipulated chemically, physically, spiritually, psychologically from day one. All of us, I want to see all of us go on to whatever is next, no matter where it is, no matter what it is, with more strength, with more weapons in our hands, with more of everything. Expand ourselves, expand our numbers, expand everything to a point where we are the force that cannot be reckoned with, that seems to be so exponentially overpowering that there's no way that there is a possibility of slavery anywhere. That's what I'm after. And I'll tell you what, we've blown through like an hour and 40 minutes here, even though we wasted about 10 of it with the communication.
It's okay. I was only kidding with you earlier about that.
It's okay, brother.
I love you, brother. I love your energy, and I love the fact that through everything that we've both been through, especially yourself, through everyone you interviewed, you still have that laughter about you. I love it. It's really refreshing to be on a show that's, you can do that. So,
well, if you want to get screamed at, there's other places to go. If you want to get lectured to, there's other places to go. You can have that if that's what you like. But me, I'm going to have the conversation. I'm going to relate this to myself and to the general listener as best I can. And there it is. That's my presentation. Judge it as you see fit.
Listen, I could talk to you for 4 hours, man. I really could. Your energy is amazing. So,
thank you, brother. Yours also. I'll tell you what, though. Before we do wind up running out of time and my bumper winds up kicking in because it's automated and all that stuff, I'd want to make sure that we again point to your YouTube channel, give people a couple more ideas about the stuff they might find on there. And if there's other places they can go that you recommend or that you're a part of or whatever else. I love the picture that you wanted me to use, by the way, because I recognize the back of that diner-looking booth seat that you're sitting in. See, I grew up in New Jersey. I live in North Carolina now, but I grew up in New Jersey. I used to go to Philly a lot, and there is a different energy to that area of the country than there is in North Carolina. And in some ways, it's a big improvement here, but the sleepwalker syndrome is even more deeply ingrained in these people, man. It's brutal in a lot of ways, and I'm still in search of my proper home, and I'm still in search of a nice area where, maybe I can get those neighbors that think like me so that we can just sort of expand outward, from the grassroots level, and not the grassroots level that they always like to feed us about on the mainstream or feed us about on certain corporate controlled alleged alternative media or anything like that. I'm talking about a real sort of grassroots thing where people actually interact with one another, give a damn about one another, and get back to those sort of seemingly old-fashioned community standards, not the way it used to be, but in the way it should have been. And that's the deal. When it comes to doing media and stuff like this, I don't look at it in terms of, what is and what has been necessarily, but I always look to what it could be, and I always look to humanity in the same way. What we could be as opposed to what we've been. Let's know what we've been, and let's get to the truth of that so that we don't repeat those mistakes. But moving forward, let's reach for the potential. Let's reach for the things that haven't been seen yet, and let's reach for the improvements that every single one of us could enjoy, man. That's where I'm at with that. So let's get into just a couple more specifics, though, and please, any websites or anything else or any particular videos that you think are like, man, this is a perfect primer or anything else, go right ahead.
Well, I mean, you guys can find me at youtube.com/PrinceTruthChaser, www.facebook.com/PaulWesley286, Twitter.com/PaulWesley286. Other than that, just love is key. I mean, through all this madness, love vibration is the highest vibration. It really is. And when we take action, while we take action, understand that this is a spiritual war. We're dealing with parasites who want to hold us down, regardless if they want to take our land, our water, our air, vaccinate our kids, whatever. They're parasites, and as you said, we really need to find really an open ground to where we're all one. We're all consciously united as one, and that's one of the things that they don't want. I hear New Hampshire's a good place to go. I hear there's a lot of good freedom things going on in New Hampshire. But if you ever want to check that out, but that's where you can find me at, and it's just I'm really happy to be on the show tonight. It's a blessing to be on the show tonight. I'd like to thank Rob for referring me to the show tonight. I mean, everything happens for a reason, and I'm just lucky enough to be able to share what little I know. I mean, I'm no better than anybody else. I'm no more important than anybody else that's out there. Whether you're handing out flyers, whether you're reaching 20,000 people, whether you're reaching 5 people, I'm just a small dropling in this lake we call truth. And just whatever happens to me, I just want to say from this day on that I've done it through the unconditional love and the best that I can. And one of the things on my YouTube channel is you can see me grow throughout my career, throughout what I've done. You can see where, I was nervous at first. You can see where I was angry after that. And you can see where after that I really got into oneness and how important, the dehumanization that they're doing to us, how I basically said, we have to break through that. And people say, wow, you have videos of this and that. Yeah, and I keep them on YouTube to show that, look, we're human. We're all frigging human. We all go through stages in life. I didn't just pop out of my mom, hey, here I am. I'm this great journalist. I don't even think I'm a great journalist. And I think that, again, through my website, PrinceTruthChaser.com, when you look at my videos, when you look at my Facebook, you're going to see that transition from who I was when I found out what's going on and really transitioning through that to become a person who just wants to better himself and have other people better themselves, because that's what it's all about. Thanks again for having me on, and I really appreciate it.
Look, I appreciate you, and I'll tell you what, a couple people are trying to call in. You want to take a couple of phone calls?
Oh, absolutely, man.
All
Definitely.
right, so 718-717-8296 is the regular call thing. If you want to try and reach me through the Skype list, if you're on it, charles.ochelli. If you're not on it already, send a friend request, and I will add you right on into the call and all that. And I didn't want to interrupt you before. That's why I didn't let those other phone callers in, guys. Okay. So, go right ahead. They'll hear me about a minute after I said it. So, anyway, you guys can join in and, ask a question, make a statement, whatever it is you want to do. That's fine. I'll take them now. But I really do appreciate it. And yeah, once again, big ups to our boy, Rob Clark, who does the Lone Gunman podcast. I love that guy. He's also somebody who doesn't take himself so seriously that he gets, kind of mired in the seriousness of the very narrow topic, which I'm extremely familiar with, which is the JFK assassination. It's one of the things him and I have in common. But that's where I started with my, search for truths, as it were. And yeah, so go right ahead, guys. If you want to call back in, that's fine. Let's see now. Let's see. Is that... Oh, okay. It's giving me a little delay thing. Connecting, and... Vince, you're on the air.
Hey, guys. Good
Hey,
to
Vince,
talk
how
to you. I got to apologize. I came in late. I stepped off into a little bit of fun elsewhere, so I got a buzz. But I do not apologize for that. But anyways, listen, what I caught and everything that I've... You and me the same, dude. We're trying to make an effect or a change, okay? So, look, this guy's got some good things to say, and I think we owe it to ourselves to listen to everything. And I'm going to have to go back to listen to that. But anyways, look, since I got a buzz, I may not make no sense right now, but I'm going to try to make sense right now.
You doing?
I was on with Walter earlier today, and we were talking about trivium and communication. So the most important thing is that we talk to each other, and we need to set some boundaries sometimes, some boundaries. I know that I'm just no more than some hillbilly redneck hick that's saying something to you right now, or if you're even hearing me. But believe me, I'm going to share it, and wherever Chuck shares it, I'm gonna latch on and I'm going to share it again, because that's why me and Chuck are brothers, and this is why me and this brother that's on right now are brothers, is because we're stepping up and we're trying to say something.
Absolutely.
And the trivium, all this stuff I talked about earlier with Walter, all this, whatever, has to do with where we can say, listen, I know what I'm saying is maybe wrong. I may be crazy, and I may be right, and I may be wrong. And if I was Billy Joel, I'd write a song about it, whatever. Chuck's my man. He knows that music. Listen, if y'all don't know, if you ain't heard about this shit already, oh, I said shit, damn it. I'm pretty sure I ain't supposed to be cussing, by golly. Is that better? Chuck's a good friend of mine.
Do what you got to do, Vince. It's all right. Go ahead.
Okay. Can I say fuck if I spell it with a PH?
You just did.
Hey, Vince, I think I've cursed enough. I've cursed enough.
Hey, brother. Hey, thanks for taking my friend request, and I look forward to getting to know you. I'm over here just a little bit at ends without knowing exactly what y'all done been talking about, because I just walked in, and I meant to be here the whole time. But from what I see about you, little brother, you're an activist, you're a friend of Nick Barnaby. That dude kicked some shit off, man, for real. And as long as we're all about making something right or better and being positive, that's what we should do. I don't care if I believe what you believe, except all these crazy notions that you got. It's like, how can I make an example? Like, I wouldn't even say that. Whatever crazy notion you got.
It's all right.
It's plenty of my own.
We may all be on different boats, Vince, but if we're all going in that positive direction, then it's a plus, and welcome to the fleet. I think that's what you're trying to say. How about that?
Hell yeah, we're all on our own personal journey, and we got to set a sail because I said this with Walter earlier. You know, this is like we're judged by these laws that are set upon the seas. Okay, but we are actually, and this is all crazy because this is what are we? A man, a human, whatever. Hey, we got our own battles. Look in more deeply. If you're listening to Chuck, he's going to, like, add some shit to you. I'm gone. Love y'all. And I'm going to have to listen to this again because I've missed so much of it. But, hey, I'm tight. I'm buzzed. I love the world.
All right, brother. You enjoy that. Vince Easley, love him. He's definitely one of these guys, and he was on earlier on the Souvenir event with Walter, of course. That's another show on UCY.tv here, and love Walter. He definitely gets down to reality and talks to you about your perceptions, and that's something that every once in a while it's always good to shake out as well. So in the last couple of minutes here, Paul, I know we only took the one call and all that, but I don't want to run out of time. I wanted to make sure you got to any other place. I mean, outside of PrinceTruthChaser.com and the YouTube channel, that's pretty much the best place to go to find you, but they can also find you on Facebook, as you were saying, right? And, well, let's see. Oh, Twitter. That's right. You also mentioned the Twitter, which, by the way, the Ochelli Effect has a Twitter now, and I barely know how to use it, but it's at Ochelli Effect. Just in case you wanted to try and contact me that way, you can do that, as well as on Facebook. There's a bunch of different ways to get a hold of me there, too. But anyway, I want to thank everybody who decided to tune into the Ochelli Effect tonight here on UCY.tv radio. Of course, you guys know that Jaded is coming up next, which is my wife's show that I do also co-host. Excuse me, I was running out of breath there. But, Paul, any final sort of thought that you want to kind of give to the listener and lay it out there? Of course, this will be on YouTube in about 2 hours or so. And, so what is your sort of cap on this particular tube of organic toothpaste tonight, sir?
My last thing to say is, whatever you get from this show, don't just hold on to it and say, well, I've gained knowledge from this goddamn show. Take what you've gained from this show and teach others, empower others. Because, again, knowledge isn't power. Real power is, like the caller Vince had said, when we all reach out, when we all band together, when we all realize that we're all in this together, okay? So knowledge isn't power. Real power is taking what you get from this show and empowering others. And again, like I said, it's just a blessing to be able to connect with, the host, obviously Chuck, with Rob, who hooked me up with it, to the caller Vince that called in. It's just great to be able to be around like-minded individuals, and no matter how crazy you think we are, that's fine. But when you look at the elite, when you look at the agenda, you're going to see it's way crazier than what we are. So, again, thanks for having me on, man. YouTube.com/PrinceTruthChaser. Love is key. They wanted to humanize us. They wanted to populate us. They want to separate us. Fuck them. It's not going to work. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely, sir. And I'll tell you what, if you got some sort of live event that's something that's contiguous, that's going on at the time, that's current, and you want to promote it or whatever else, feel free to drop me a line, and I will gladly get that out there to people and hopefully help to increase the numbers of awareness on the projects that you're working on, because I support what you're doing. Not necessarily in 100% agreement. Again, it's not a religious cult, so it doesn't mean that I can't question anything he says.
Absolutely.
But in general, I'm in support of this gentleman, so absolutely, I hope to hear from you again, even if it is to just drop in and kind of promote one of your events, protests, anything else that you got.
Sure. And the same here, listen, and the same here, too. When you drop your video on YouTube, I'm going to promote the hell out of it. You know what I mean? Just because Chuck may not believe in some of the paranormal things I do, or maybe some of the activist things I do, it doesn't mean we don't touch base on things. We're all in this as one. We're all in this together. Let's get off our ass, get off our couch, support each other, and make shit happen. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, man. And once more, everybody, thanks a lot for deciding to give us the time tonight here on the Ochelli Effect.